All right, so today's lesson, we're going to be learning how to subtract integers. Throughout today, we're going to go back from adding integers to subtracting integers. By the end of the day, we're going to focus on subtracting. But hopefully you realize there is a connection between adding integers and subtracting integers. So I want you to develop an understanding of integer subtraction throughout the same process as we did last class of modeling and using a number line. Remember, one way to think about subtraction is you have a starting amount, a starting number, and then you take away from that starting amount. So along the lines of what we did last time, we're going to model it with positive and negative sign and a number line. And as you get familiar with it, you can take those models away. So I am going to start with the same method that we did last time. So focus on the first number, that's 4. Positive sign, so that's 4 positives. And then look at this next one. The sign out in front of 2 is negative, so I'm going to do 2 negatives. And then remember we talked about a zero pair. So a zero pair is 1 positive, 1 negative that make a pair and cancel out. So here's the zero pair, that's 1 plus 1 negative. Cancel each other out. 1 plus 1 negative, cancel each other out. So you're left with, since I have no more negatives or zero pairs, I'm going to say that the final 2 signs are my answer. So my answer is a positive 2. You can model this on a number line as well. So I'm just going to make sure my number line is labeled. All right, so the first number I have, again, is 4. So I'm going to start at 0 and find 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to hang out at 4 until I observe my next number. So my next number is negative 2. So I'm going to go back 2 spaces because it's negative, and negative is the left direction. And where I end up is my answer. And you can see these 2 numbers are exactly the same. That means you've checked your answer and it is correct. There's no mistake. And then I have this other problem. You can notice that the first one that we did, 4 plus negative 2, was addition. And this next one that we're going to do is subtraction. There is a connection that I want you to see. So I'm going to start with, again, the signs. So look at number 4. If 4 is positive, so I'm going to start with 4 positive signs. And then you can think of this 2 different ways. You can think this is as subtraction, so I'm going to take away. So if I take away, I'm just going to grab my eraser and take away 2 positive signs. And then that's your final answer, which is plus 2. Or you can think of it as, again, if I go back to my positive signs, the same mentality that we've been doing. What's the sign out in front of 2? It happens to be negative. That subtraction sign applies to the 2. So I have 2 negatives, and then do your 0 pairs. And you're left with 2 positives as well. You can also do this on the number line. Start at 0. The first number I have is positive 4, so I go to positive 4. And then minus 2, so I go to the left 2 spots. And you're left with 2. What I want you to realize throughout this video is that look at what our answer and our problem set was. Our answer was the same. It's 2 for each problem, but our problem type was different. The left problem was addition. The right problem was subtraction. I want you to realize, while we do a few more examples, is adding a negative is the same thing as subtracting. So let's try this one. So we're adding, put parentheses in there, 3 plus a negative 8. So we're adding a negative. So we're going to do the same mentality. Here's 3. Is it positive or negative? It's a positive 3. Sign out in front is nothing, so it's a plus 3. So I'm going to do 3 plus signs. Plus minus 8. So the negative belongs to the 8. So I'm going to do 8 negative signs. 1, 2, 3, 4. 7, 8. So I'm going to circle, circle, 0 pair. 1 0 pair, 2 0 pairs, 3 0 pairs. Be careful with your 0 pairs. And then what's left over? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 negative signs. So I need -5 as the answer. So I'm going to do my number line method. So I'm going to create a number line. Notice I do have negative numbers, so I have to make my number line go a little bit more negative than I'm used to. Alright, so first number is the number you're going to start off with, so it's 3, so I'm going to find 3, 1, 2, 3, so that's a number. And then 8 is negative, so I know since it's a negative, I'm going in the left direction on a number line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I skipped -3. 6, 7, 8. So there is -5. Make sure if you caught that, make sure you double check that your number line is correct. For some reason I skipped -3. Oh. So -5, both those answers are correct. So then this next example we have is 3 minus 8. So again, I'm going to do the same method with my signs. 3, what sign is it? It's positive, so 1, 2, 3. 8, what sign out in front of it is? You got that negative sign right there for subtraction, so it's a -8. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to circle my 0 pairs. Be careful. There's 1. There's 2. And there's 3. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's -5 as an answer. And do the same thing as my number line. So 0, 1, 2. Be careful this time. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got them all of them. So I'm going to start at 3. So 1, 2, 3. And there's 3. And then I'm going to take away 8. So I'm going to subtract 8 from that, which means I'm moving left 8 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go. -5. Again, what I want you to notice is that even though I am adding -8 here and subtracting 8, adding a -8 and subtracting 8 comes out with the same results. So adding a negative is the same as subtracting. Again, adding a negative is the same as subtracting. So we're going to start off with this next one. So it's -3 minus 1. So I'm going to do the same thing, positive and negative counters. So the first number I have -3. 1, 2, 3 negatives. And then this -1, so 1 is a negative, so I'm going to add another negative. So how many negatives do you have in total? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 negatives. I'm going to do it on a number line, so notice both my numbers are negative, so I don't really have to have a lot on the positive side. If you notice that both of the numbers in your problem are negative, all right, so I'm going to start with the first number. It's -3, so I'm going to find -3. 1, 2, 3 to the left. Chill out there for a second, and then the number I'm going and using next is 1, but it's a negative because that sign out in front right there. So it's -1 or -1, and I'm going to go left 1 spot. And then that's your answer. Alright, we're going to try this next one. It's -3 plus -1. So the first one is -3. So 1, 2, 3 negatives. The sign out in front of 1 is negative, so I'm going to put another negative. Notice that you have no zero pairs, so all you're doing is counting up the signs. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 negatives. So if I do the number line method, I notice that both my numbers that I'm adding together are negative, so I'm going to focus more of my number line on the negative side. Alright, so I'm going to start at -3. So 1, 2, 3 to the left, that's -3. I'm going to add one more negative, so since 1 is negative, I'm going to go one space to the left. There's my answer. Again, what I want you to notice is adding a negative, right here, is the same thing as subtracting. So our next problem is 2 minus 7. So 2 positive, so 2 positive signs. And then 7 out in front, that's a -7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Find your zero pair. So here's one plus and minus. I'm going to just cross it out. Here's another plus or minus. I'm going to cross it out. I have no more pluses or minuses, so I'm going to count what I have left over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's -5. Number line is another method. So I'm going to draw a number line really quick. Alright, so that's all the room I have. So I'm going to start at 2. So 1, 2, so there's 2. And then left 7 spots because it's a -7 or a -7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's where I end up. -5. So 2 plus a -7, so 2 is positive, so 1, 2, plus a -7, so I'm going to add 7 negatives to it, the group. So there's 1 zero pair, there's 2 zero pairs, so what's left over? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that's -5. So notice, if you notice throughout all of this, we're getting the same answer no matter what method. So again, the main point is I want you to understand that subtracting is the same thing as adding a negative. So here we have 4 minus -5. And so what you need to understand and notice is you have 2 negatives right here in the problem. You have minus and negative. So a minus sign and a negative sign mean opposite. So whenever you see this, it means opposite a negative. So double negative, so I'm going to space this out, double negative is equaling to a positive. So you do opposite of the -5, which is 4 plus 5. So opposite of a -5, so that's 4 plus 5. So I have +4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And then opposite of a -5 is 5 positives. 4, 5, so that's +9. If I do this on a number line, I'm going to start at 0, go to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm not going left 5 because this 5 is negative. Notice that I have 2 negatives. So I have minus -5, which is going to do the opposite of -5. So I'm going to add 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you get 9. So when you get to these problems and you notice the double negative, this is hard. So when you don't notice the double negative right here, make sure you're understanding that double negative turns it into a positive. So that goes -6 plus 3. The double negative turns it into a positive. So you have -6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3 positives, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, cancel them out, and I'm left with 1, 2, 3 negatives, left over. So double negative, make it into a positive. We're going to go a lot over this in class, but feel free to rewatch this video.